Hey guys, Razorblade Mango here. As you've probably seen by the title of this video and the format that I'm going with, this video is going to be a little bit, well, not a little bit, a lot different from the usual stuff that I do on the channel. So with May being Mental Health Month, Mental Health Awareness Month, um, I'm already kind of nervous talking about or I haven't even begun the video in full and I'm already nervous talking about it. Uh, for Mental Health Awareness month for May, I wanted to just talk about mental health in general as it relates to my experience with it. I'm a little bit more about my background and I guess kind of the advice that I would give to people who are struggling with mental health. And I'm not a mental health expert. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist. Not a psychiatrist. None of that shit. I'm just some normal dude who has a YouTube channel that makes videos that just happens to have you know clinically diagnosed depression. But um, so if you don't want to watch one of these videos about me with me that kind of peels back the curtain a little bit more and goes into more like personal stuff, then this video is not for you. If you want a video that's not about like dark sensitive subject matter, then there's lots of other videos I have that are more goofy and silly. I would recommend watching those. I wouldn't want anyone like being like feeling discomfort watching this to where it would be like distressing to watch it. So if you want a sillier video, I have lots of those. This is not going to be one of those videos. And part of the reason I wanted to do this as well, besides May being Mental Health Awareness Month, is that I think there is this, especially with the rise of social media, there is this. I think it's a misconception. I think it's a misconception that the stigma of talking about mental health and being aware of it and openly discussing it has been lowered these days or is gone. Maybe a little bit lowered, but I think that's a little bit bullshit that the stigma is gone because there are a lot of people I know that suffer from mental health problems or people that I maybe don't even know uh, suffer from it that might like be hiding it very well that I'm not aware of. Um, and I know there are people in my life that would probably be like surprised by this video, like talking about it like this, or even like they know me, like even like people that have known me for a long time that might be surprised by this, just because it's not something I like to talk about openly with people. I will bring it up if I need to, like if I need absolutely must bring it up to somebody, like a doctor or my therapist or something like that. Um, but I don't normally like talking about this kind of thing, and it is difficult to talk about, even though, like right now, like I said, I can feel the butterflies in my stomach talking about this because it is a difficult subject for me to talk about just openly. But I want to. I also wanted to put this out there because like for any of my subscribers that have mental health issues like depression, suicidal thoughts, anything like that, I want you guys to know that you are not alone out there. And I did a video about this, what, like 2 years ago at the beginning of the pandemic, and that was when I like really was like, okay, like we have never faced a situation like this before, like a literal pandemic, and this has like cracked the egg open on like a lot of people's like awareness of the fact that they have a problem with their like mental health. And that was kind of my experience as well with the beginning of 2020, where like pandemic hit, a bunch of other shit happened, and it's like the egg just cracked open, and I was like, okay, I have been holding this in for so long, and now I'm finally like ready to deal with it. And I feel like a lot of people went through that experience. that was the point of that video from back in 2020. Um, so I guess I don't have any notes. Normally when I make videos about stuff, I have notes in front of me. But if you see me like glance over to the side a little bit, I have the OBS software up on my monitor. I just want to make sure that it's recording it properly. So I'm not like looking over and looking at notes. I don't have anything prepared. This is just kind of like an off the cuff thing, and I feel like that's appropriate for this kind of topic because talking about mental health, it's not some like prepared statement thing. It is messy. It is uncomfortable. There are silences. It can be awkward, and I want to kind of like give you guys, like be open about it and say like, hey, it's okay. It's okay if it is awkward to talk about how you feel or what you think. And it's not a fun subject to talk about. It's not something where you can write it down paragraph by paragraph and go like this is this and hit all these different points. It's not like that. Maybe some people can do that. And if they're able to, I'm incredibly jealous of them. But with me, when I talk about it, it's awkward and it's messy and maybe I'll not be as to the point as I am with some things, but um so a little bit of background history with me is that I would say I had half of a lousy childhood. My parents were divorced before I was even born, and I on my mom's side, that was a wonderful childhood. That was like I had a lot of friends growing up. I was very like open, and I had a lot of like I like to think I had a lot of charisma back when I was a kid on that side. My mom, like to this day, she's still extremely um like like she basically is like the light. Was the light during my childhood, and still is like a big source of light for me today. Like my mom is like everything to me. But the other side of it, my dad's side of it, um, not not as chipper and fun. I wasn't at least I don't think I was. I might maybe have like memories that I'm either like repressing or I can't remember, but I was spared the physical I was spared the physical abuse from him growing up, but I like he definitely more than made up for it on the verbal emotional part of it. And that in some way for me is like worse because I can take a beating pretty well. Like I've been beaten up before, and wounds heal, the outside wounds, but the wounds that people inflict on the inside, that takes a much longer time to heal or deal with. And my dad certainly inflicted those wounds upon me pretty. I think it maybe started around like age 4 or 5 when I could like actually like consciously be aware of like my surroundings as a child. When I go back and think about it, um, he always there's a lot like it's one of those situations where there's like so much that I don't even know where to start. I won't go into like every little bit of detail with that, but he had no problem like humiliating me in public. He had no problem yelling at me, calling me all kinds of things. He had no problem. He had no problem gaslighting me. Um, he had no problem like doing something, and I would know he did it, and I would tell him about it later, and he would just flat out deny it to my face and lie about it. He said, "I never did that. You're making that up. Why are you making that up?" And he would just try to like gaslight. There was like one there. It's a more minor situation, but there was one time where I was at his shop, and he used to run a vacuum repair shop. I don't know if it's still around, but I haven't seen him in like quite a few years. But um, there was a time where he was talking to one of his business associates, and he was yelling, like swearing at the guy on the phone, and I could obviously hear it. Like I can still hear it in my head. Like right now, I can hear that conversation. And I remember him saying fuck like over and over and over and over again to this guy. And then like later, um, because he had a problem with the way like I think I was watching The Simpsons on like the TV I had at his shop, and Bart Simpson said like ass, or that's one of the teachers said ass or something. And my dad got really mad. He was like, "Turn that off! I don't want to hear that." And I made this remark. I'm like, "Hey, The Simpsons isn't the only ones who swear." He was like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, I'm like, dude, I heard you back there. You said like fuck like 1,000 times. And he's like, I never said that. You're making that up. You're lying. I never said that. And it was like, and it's things like that, and they weren't just like one-off instances. They were like repeatedly, like over and over and over again throughout my childhood. Like I can still, to this day, I can still hear his voice in my head, like yelling at me and telling me like what a big like screw up I am, and how I'll never amount to anything, or how I or how I'm like I make him feel like a son of a bitch, or how I make him feel like a bastard. Before I move, and you know like that stays with you for a long time. And I think because of like his influence, and I talked about how I always felt like I was charismatic or something throughout my childhood on my mom's side whenever I was like doing things with her. But my dad like slowly just like over time just like beat down my self-esteem and my confidence. And I think a lot of it has like with his influence, a lot of it um there's something I said this to my therapist a long time ago, is that it's like there is no greater pain to a child or to somebody when one of the two people who brought you into this world doesn't want anything to do with you. And I always felt like, and my dad like he never like explicitly said I was a burden or that I ruined his life, but the way he treated me a lot, it really felt like that. And I knew he never wanted me, and I knew he never wanted um to be a dad. At least not at least he didn't want to be a father to a son he couldn't directly control, because my dad was also a Muslim, and I never wanted. I'm not a very religious person. Like I respect. There's a lot of people in my life who are religious who I have a great amount of respect for. But I was never somebody who really like gravitated towards religion as a kid. Even like my mom's Christian and my dad's Muslim, and that's a hell of a historically that's a hell of a tug and war between the two ideologies. And my dad was like obsessed with me being a good Muslim, and I would do the stuff out of like fear, not out of genuine desire. And but because I had a lot of influence from my mom to kind of like be my own person, and she always like encouraged what I would become and stuff like that, nurtured my creative side. Um, my dad, he was like, he basically wanted to be me to be like a zombie. He basically wanted me to be a good Muslim boy who didn't question him, who studied the Quran, and who went to Pakistan and did all the pilgrimage and all that stuff, and there would be like an arranged marriage. That's what he wanted. That's what he wanted. Like he when he talked about it, like it sounded like, sometimes it sounded like he was joking, but that's what he wanted. He basically wanted to control my life. And because he couldn't do that, he didn't know how to react to that, and he took it out on me. Um, and I remember him telling me one time that, and this is when I was like, I think I was like 8 or 9 when he told me this. He said that if you don't become a good Muslim, your mother is going to hell. You and your mother will go to hell. And he told me that, and I remember like being like terrified by that possibility. So I didn't have to. Thankfully, like my mom knew what was going on with my dad, but she couldn't really do anything about it in the short term because of the courts. And that's why I have like a personal thing against like divorce courts and lawyers and that whole all that kind of shit, just because of my experience with it growing up. But it was like age 12 where I didn't have to see him anymore, and I during my teenage years and my early 20s, I actually went out of my way on a few occasions to try to attempt to build some kind of relationship with him. Um, they were gonna be on my terms. I wasn't gonna go do the Moss stuff. I wasn't gonna go sleep at his house. I wasn't going to invite him to everything I was doing. I wasn't gonna go out with him on my birthday whenever. This was gonna be on my terms, and I felt like I earned that after the childhood that he put me through. The mental and emotional abuse that I had a lot when I was a kid. And again, I'm not even detailing like everything because I'd be here all fucking day talking about just that part. But it's like it's I wanted that control when I was a teenager, when I was in my early 20s, to talk about it. And um, he he never, and even when I was in high school or when I was in middle school, and I think it started to kind of become more of a desire to reconnect with him after my grandpa died. A very he man, dementia is a hell of a disease. Like it just my grandpa, who was basically like my real father figure during my childhood, he got dementia when I was in 6th grade, and by I think he passed away in March of 2007. That was when I was in 7th grade. So he went like dementia took his toll on him and killed him pretty much like less than a year. And after that, that was like I had a desire to reconnect with my dad after that, and I wanted to make an effort. I couldn't live with myself if I didn't make an effort to try to reconnect with him, because if he died, and my dad suffers from health conditions as well. I inherited like not inherited health conditions, but I have a potential double whammy on me as far as like heart problems later on in life, all thanks to him. But I had to reconnect with him. I had to at least make that effort, or else I couldn't live with myself. Even after all the shit he put me through when I was a kid, I had to do it. And I made multiple efforts to do it, and they all just failed um because whenever I put the ball in his court to try to respond to me and talk to me, he always like let it falter. He always dropped the ball. He either always dropped the ball by being like unresponsive, or he dropped the ball by saying something that made me not want to speak to him for like years. Like there would literally be like 2 or 3 years would pass, there would be an attempt, and he would fuck it up. And then another 2 or 3 years would pass, another attempt, he would fuck it up, and then rinse and repeat until like a couple years ago, when the pandemic started. Um, the last interaction I ever had with him was the beginning of the pandemic, and he was telling me about how he was stuck in Pakistan because of stuff that happened. But that's I don't want to get into like that, but he was stuck in Pakistan for like a year, basically, and he sounded like very somber, and when he left me a voicemail asking like to call him, he sounded different. There was something in my gut that told me like something is different about this. I'm gonna give him a call and see what's going on. And then I found out what had been going on with him. And like when he was telling me all this stuff, I thought, okay, maybe he's changed. Maybe he's much more like chill now. And then when I told him that I was still working at my full-time job, he just like immediately went back to like well, you know, that's a really dumb idea that you're why aren't you going to school full time? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And it's like, okay. Like I basically like I just gave up at that point. I just walked away. I just like mentally walked away. And I was just done at that point. But the wounds that I have from that fractured relationship, the way I always felt without him in my life, and the way he like destroyed my self confidence and my really like so the I see myself as this brick wall, but on the bottom two rows, it's missing like a ton of bricks. But there are bricks on each side that just barely hold it up to where the wall doesn't collapse. And that's how I've always felt. Where it's like the foundational things that he would have provided just aren't there. I feel like less of a person. I feel like less of a man because I didn't have my dad around to teach me these things. I didn't have a competent father, and the only father figure I had growing up fucking died like prematurely during like the beginning of my like puberty. Like I needed that. I needed a dad, and I didn't get it. And I tried to like I like in my heart like I will never stop chasing that. But physically I can't do it anymore. It's just such like a, and this is such an overused word, but it is the relationship with that I have with my dad is like the dictionary definition of a toxic relationship. Like it really is just like every time I talk to him, I just feel worse about myself, and and how I tie this back to where I am now is that like a lot of stuff that he put me through with my childhood, it's like the seeds were planted there and they've grown into like these like really strong trees now that I really do feel like I don't really amount to much. I guess that's kind of my thing. Like it's weird like with my content, I with the YouTube channel, I there's a certain mental disconnect, emotional disconnect from that. I don't really care if people dislike my content or if people like it or whatever, if I get like a nasty comment or a DM that tells me that I'm a retard or something. Like I don't really care. It doesn't ruin my day. Like it's annoying, but it's not like ugh. Like I don't think about it. But in my own personal life, I always feel like I am alone. And there's this kind of it's like something isn't quite right with the what is reality and what I perceive reality to be. It's like this filter that doesn't go away. And just to like objectively describe in terms what I have in my life. Like I have a mom who really loves me. I have family that I can turn to if I'm ever in a time of need. I have multiple friends that I know give a shit. I have a few like core friends that I know would go to hell and back for me. I can hit up like multiple different groups of friends and plan something with each one and still have friends left over that I could hang out with that aren't in these like circles of friends. Like that's how many friends I have in real life. I know I'm good at talking to people. I know I'm good at making friends. I know I'm good at like helping people. And I know like objectively that I am a good person. But even as I say these words, it feels hollow. Like there's this emotional disconnect. Um, Objectively, this is reality, but in my own head, it's like there's just this again, it's just this filter that I put over everything, and it just that's what I struggle with a lot of the time is that I feel just this lack of self-worth, and I feel this thing where it just what is reality does not register with the emotional side of me. Um, it's almost like there's this bridge that's just missing that holds the two things together, and it like balances it out. Um, and I always feel like I'm I guess I always feel like I'm unworthy of the friends that I have and the things that I have in my life. Um and I once asked because I think it was like when I was like in really bad shape, when I was like mentally really bad shape. I um I asked like one of my groups of friends, I was like, "What do you guys like about me? Like what seriously, like do you guys like me at all?" And I think I posed that question to them, and they were just like completely taken aback. They were like, "What the hell are you talking about? Like you're a really good friend. You're hilarious. You're always there to like talk to if we need anything. Like what the fuck are you talking about? Like you like what do you mean? Like of course we care about you. Of course we love you. You know, you're our friend." And I don't know, it's even hearing that, even getting it almost feels like they're lying to me. And there's this just this disconnect that they're lying. And I always feel like the and I've felt this way for so long, so like negatively about myself that it's almost become this sick bubble of comfort where if I don't feel horrible about myself, if I don't relive past bad things that have happened to me in order to get myself back into that frame of mind, like my brain, it constantly brings up old shit to where I think it and it's like reality, and it puts me back in that bubble, that sick bubble of it's like a comfortable bubble of negativity. Like and every time I try to leave it, it's like my brain goes, "No, come back here. Come back to this bubble of sick like self-defeat and horrible negative feelings. That's where you're comfortable." And I guess it's like these like pathways in my head, these like thought pathways are just so ingrained into my brain that whenever I try to do something fun for myself or try to feel good, my brain like goes haywire and it doesn't know what to do with all that positivity because it's so used to all this like negativity that I've like built up and kept in for so long, for like, so many years. Um, and it's like it just it impacts it impacts the relationship that I have with some friends where I feel like on bad days that's like they don't appreciate me or something like that, and I know that's not true, but my brain thinks it is. And that's like a hell of a thing to combat when like your own brain weaponizes your emotions against you, and it's almost like to protect you. It's almost like your brain is protecting you from hope, because if you stay at like one speed, the first speed, to where you're just negative and you expect bad things and you just feel horrible about yourself, there's no risk of trying to challenge that or prove it wrong. And it's like my brain just goes, "No, come back into this comfort, this bubble of comfort, and just stay here and don't try anything new. Don't talk to any new people. Don't question things about yourself. Don't try to better yourself. Just stay. Stay in this disgusting acidic bubble of comfort that I've created for you." Boy, oh boy, is it tempting? Is it cozy? It is cozy. I'm not going to deny that, but it's horrible. It makes me feel like trash. And the final I guess the final topic I'll go over before I get into like therapy and what that has helped with it is that like I guess the topic of suicide is that, first of all, if you are thinking about suicide, you have suicidal thoughts, and you aren't seeing a therapist or anything like that, that's what I would recommend. And if you can't afford to see a therapist, you wouldn't believe how fucking expensive therapy can be for people in parts of the world where they don't have like easy access to it. Just talk to somebody. Please God, just get on the phone with somebody. Get on the phone with like one of these hotlines. Just please God, do not kill yourself. Please. Um but my experience with it is that I've I've thought about it a few times throughout my life. And I've never I don't think I would ever actually go through with that. And it's difficult to talk about suicide because it's like I don't want to sound like I'm romanticizing the idea. There's a lot of people that like bring it up so often that it's like it's almost like because of how interconnected we are now is that it's easy for a lot of people to like say, "Oh, I'm suicidal, I need help," and almost like get off on the help that they receive from it. And I'm not like criticizing anyone in particular. It's just I've seen this where they do it as like an attention seeking thing. And they like get off on it. And believe me, like if you really do think about suicide and like that is not something to get off on. That's not something that you want to have all eyes on you about. It is an incredibly dark, like damaging place that where you can be. I've been there a couple times, and I've been on that verge where um I've just there was a point where I and I think the point where I finally started therapy a couple years back. um the the straw that broke the camel's back was that I was so miserable a couple years ago. I was so depressed. I was so like I just didn't care. I was so angry, and I wanted to I came very close to walking into my office at work and just grabbing a pair of scissors and just stabbing myself in the throat. Like it was that bad. Like that's where my head was at that point. And I came like yay close to doing it. And I didn't give a shit. I didn't give a shit about what other people how they would react to it. I didn't give a shit about how like what my mom would think. I didn't give a shit about like what my friends would think. I just wanted the pain to end. And I was just like desperate. I just wanted to grab the sharpest thing near me and just end it. And thankfully that was kind of like I didn't go through with it, but that was a huge wake up call. So like, hey, whatever's going on, you gotta work through this, buddy. Um, so yeah, that's kind of my experience with it. And moving on to um moving on to therapy, therapy's been a great help. It's been a great help. I think a naive thing about therapy is that when I first started it, I I thought it was gonna be like a cure. Yes. Like I would talk about my problems with somebody, and then just like the problem would just like magically cure itself. That's not what therapy is. What therapy is, at least from my experience, is therapy helps you get better tools in your belt to deal with the problems that you have. Because your problems, the things that are going on in your head, they're not going to go away. You can better learn to deal with them. You can better learn, like you can better build better defenses against it. You can build better walls against it. You can do things that will activate like serotonin and endorphins. Like working out is a great fucking working out and eating healthy are like two things that I would three things. Go outside, exercise, and eat healthy. Those are the three things that I would recommend. Like without question. Those are like that those three things are like so basic and yet they're so helpful. Just walk for like 20 minutes outside. Just eat something, eat a small something. You will be amazed You'll be amazed by how different you feel just forcing yourself to do these things. Sometimes you will have to force yourself to do it. But that's like what I've learned from therapy is like getting better tools in order to combat the shit that your mind throws at you, shit that your emotions. Um and but the things that I would say about therapy, or the things that I've learned from it, and my therapist, he's really helped with visualization. If you can attach an image to something that you're feeling or something that's going on in your head, it will make it slightly less intimidating. For example, whenever I get into one of like my negative spirals, I always think of that scene in Inception when Cobb is talking to Ariadne and he tells her, we don't really think about how we got into a dream. It's like we're just there in the middle of it. Like we're just there in the middle in the end. And it's not until we wake up do we realize something was weird. We never experience the beginning of a dream. Never experience how we get into it. That's what I think about when I think of like when I get into when my brain tries to drag me back by bringing up like old shit or tries to like make me feel a negative emotion to be more comfortable, to get back to how I default. And I always like try to stop myself, and I always think about that, and I always think about whenever I catch my brain doing that, I think of Sly Cooper. Like one of the video game references I'll bring to this is I think of Sly Cooper, and I think of a spotlight being thrown on him, and it's like, aha, got you, little bastard, you thief. That's like what I associate my brain doing when it's like I catch it, and I just think about that spotlight on not Spyro, Sly Cooper. I'm like, aha, there it is. I caught it before it's too late. I caught it before it's just like ran off with my brain and my imagination and my emotions. And another thing I think about when I think about my brain trying to like pull me back to this dark place, I think about there's a story by Junji Ito, the famous manga artist. There's a story, I think it's called The Whispering Woman. And there's this image that he drew of this. The story is about this girl who can't decide things for herself. Like she can't. She's incapable of making decisions. So her dad hires this like helper for her, this nanny, and this woman basically like goes behind this young girl and like whispers to her and tells her what to do. This young girl is able to function because this woman is telling her what to do, like little by little. There's a shot where the girl is kind of like, I think she's like watering some plants or something, and the woman is standing behind her, and the woman looks all like haggard and like bold and disgusting, and that's what I think about when I think about my brain trying to bring me back to this default of negativity, and it's this. That's what I visualize it, and because I can visualize it, it makes it a little bit easier to deal with. Still hard. It requires a lot of consistency. It requires a lot of mental hard work. But man, like when you finally have those tools in your belt and you feel like you're able to take it on, oh man, it's so much better. It is not so much. It is better. But those things are still there. And therapy, just for people who aren't in therapy, therapy is not a miracle cure. But it will give you the tools, and it also depends on your therapist. Like thankfully, when I decided to get help, the first therapist I ever went to, we just like clicked, and I've been seeing him for like over 2 years now. Well, actually, yeah, probably like almost 2 years to the day, almost at the time of recording this. Um, I yeah, so that's kind of the thing that I wanted to talk about with I just wanted to be like, like the again, the point of this video is to just, I guess, try to reduce the stigma of talking about it, because it can be scary to talk about. Just like it is still scary to talk about. I still like, even though after saying everything, I still feel like that discomfort and those butterflies in my stomach. but I'm glad I did because I want you guys to know, and it's the same thing that I echoed with the 2020 mental health awareness videos, that you are not alone. You have people out there that care about you, and whatever you're going through, I'm fully aware that what I'm going through is it definitely, it's not as bad as it could be. I know there are people out there who have it way worse than I do, like way, way, way worse. But I can only speak from my experience. I can't speak from anyone else's. But I hope me talking about my experience, it just made you just a little bit more comfortable talking about it. Maybe it pushed you to um want to find help or something. It's just it shouldn't take a fucking like like I think the idea of mental health awareness month is, it's a noble cause, but I feel like we should kind of be talking about it all the time. It's like when these corporations change their Twitter handles to like whenever it's like a like gay pride month or anything like that, and then they just like cynically do it, and then they just discard it after a month. Like once June is over, those gay pride flags go down real quick from a lot of these like companies. They're just like, nope, it's done. June's done. We're going back to the normal thing. And that's like, yeah, no, it just looks really cynical, dude. But we should be talking about mental health like all the time. We should be talking about it openly, honestly, if you want to. Don't want to, that's one thing. But if you're scared to talk about it, but you feel like you, somewhere deep down inside, you really feel like you need to talk about it, then hopefully this video will have provided some form of comfort to you or something. Or maybe some of you out there just appreciated a more like personal video from me. But I yeah, yeah. I'm not gonna say this was fun. That's the wrong adjective, but this was, I guess, good for me as well to talk about it out loud, to say it out loud. To, I'm not talking to anyone like directly in person. Just talking about it, just openly. It takes a little bit of the weight off, just a little bit, and it kind of puts into perspective the work I still have to do, just like saying it out loud. Um, so yeah, um, that's it. Thank you all for watching. And again, if you ever feel like you need help or suicidal or you need someone to talk to, there is help out there for you. I will include links in the description box, like the suicide hotline, where you can look up the closest therapist in your area. I think it's called like psychology.org or something like that. Um, yeah, that's that'll be it from me. Thank you to everyone watching, and I will catch you all later. See ya.